If you kind of just want to introduce yourself, I guess we just get started.
Yeah. So I'm Abby Hodges. I'm the Associate Director of Marketing and Fan Experience for Utah Athletics. My main sports are volleyball and gymnastics. And then obviously we all kind of jump in to help produce football games because they're such a big thing here. So I've been doing this for about 6 years. I started as an intern here at Utah when I was going to school. And it was right before COVID hit. So COVID hit and all the interns and all the athletic staff kind of lost their, got laid off and all this other stuff. So I was the only one around because I was local. So I ended up taking over the softball program and kind of running that. Obviously, with no fans in the stands, but still running it the best I could. And after that, I got part-time job here as the marketing assistant, and then kind of worked my way up assistant director, and then as now associate director. So I went to school here. 2000. I graduated in 21 with my bachelor's in marketing. So I've only known Utah. I grew up here. I went to school here. I have no experience anywhere else, but I'm a Utah girl through and through.
That's very similar to me. I grew up in Kansas City, which is just right down the road from Lawrence and 40 minutes away. So, very similar paths, and always knew I was going to be at KU. Always knew I was going to be a Jayhawk with my parents, and as they were too. So it's very similar in that aspect. But kind of go through your role day to day and kind of what you do for the marketing side. You mentioned the sports you kind of work with, and obviously you're working with all of them. But kind of just go through your role.
Yeah, I mean, you work in sports, it kind of depends on the season. So my volleyball season's a lot lighter than my gymnastics season is. But we're basically starting to plan a volleyball season, in March once the schedules come out. We're starting to figure out what game themes we want to put, what our overall season theme is, what the look of all our graphics and content is going to be, and then as well as what promotions and then what community stuff we want to do. So how are we going to get people into the games and into the stands? So we're doing that starting March as soon as all the schedules come out, and then we're prepped and ready for August season to start. While I'm in season with volleyball, I'm working on gymnastics stuff. So about the end of October, I'm running games, football and volleyball, and planning an entire gymnastics season. So, and if you know anything about the University of Utah's gymnastics program, they are fabulous. 49 consecutive national championship appearances. Working with a program that big while also doing football and volleyball is is a big load. And you have to really manage your time and manage your stress levels for that. But we're basically creating marketing plans for gymnastics, how we're going to let the Valley know when our meets are, how we're going to advertise digitally and also
Yeah, and also
traditionally.
traditionally.
And then we're just
And
going
then
to
we're
figure
just gonna
those things
figure
out.
those things out. Yeah, so obviously in sports, like which I'm getting to now, having been an intern as well, and then also kind of getting into this role on the ticketing side, an entry level role. How did you go from intern to kind of working your way up in a sense in Utah, and what was that process look like for you?
It was a weird time because it was during COVID, so I was, like, the only
Yeah.
one left, and I actually applied for the assistant director of marketing position when it became available, and unfortunately, I wasn't qualified enough to do it at that time, so I took the part-time role as the marketing assistant, and at that time, we had lost another person, so there were 3 of us in the marketing department, and there was no one to run gymnastics. So I basically was like, "I will do it, put me in, like, let me figure this out." And so I ran
I ran
gymnastics program as
gymnastics
a part-time marketing assistant and kind of made myself very, very valuable at that point. And then when gymnastics season ended, they promoted me to assistant director and they're like, "We need you to run gymnastics forever," basically.
So yeah, I guess obviously historic program with gymnastics. How did you tackle that role? How did you take that on head first?
It's a daunting task. You've got 15,000 people in the stands for a gymnastics meet on a Friday night here. You look at the stands and you're like, oh my gosh, I've never seen them this full. So, sorry, you're good. But you basically try to figure out what they've done in the past and what's worked. And then also just figure out how to expand on those traditions and expand on that success they've had. 40 plus years of giving out free tickets and getting people to actually just experience gymnastics. And then now in a world where we don't give free tickets out and you have to utilize as much advertising and marketing as possible to let people know that our gymnastics program is really good and you want to come see them and come spend Friday nights at the Huntsman. But the philosophy with gymnastics is always it's a show. It's a production. It's not a sport. So here, when Greg Marston, the original coach, created gymnastics, he wanted people to come in and just experience something so different. So pyro, light shows, just the most incredible production you can think of. So it was more
How
like
does that work inside?
we have a lot of stuff with the fire marshal.
Yeah,
We use
I
coal
bet.
sparks and flame, and yeah, it's a little terrifying, but hey, it works.
Yeah, see, I don't believe we have gymnastics, so I don't know anything about it. But yeah, what goes into it? And you said working with the fire marshal a lot, but like, I guess I just don't know much about it. So I guess just give an overview of that.
Yeah. Gymnastics is a niche sport, and there are a lot of schools like Oklahoma, LSU, UCLA that have very distinguished gymnastics programs. So I think people who don't understand the world of gymnastics have a hard time like grasping like what are you guys doing? So the Huntsman Center is a basketball facility. It is meant for basketball, so our floor is very small. So fitting 4 events, the floor, the beam, the vault, and the bars in our facility is extremely difficult, but we make it work. So it's a very intimate space down there on the floor for us. But basically, we have 6 meets a year. The first one is always a preview meet. So it's like their glorified practice that they invite everyone to. And then we get into our actual season. So we had a tri meet, which is 3 teams for our first meet on January 2nd. So you already have a very small floor, and then you add 16 gymnasts per team and 3 teams. It gets pretty crammed
Yeah.
down there. But yeah, gymnastics is it's one of those sports where they are very wanting perfection, and they want perfection from everyone. And that
Mhm.
is their support staff as well. So you give your all every meet, and you put in as much effort as you can so that you can walk away and say, I gave what I could just as much as they did. So
Yeah, but that's pretty satisfying to
yeah.
see a meet pulled off, and obviously with the successful team like Utah's, it's got to be pretty satisfying when it's like all set. I guess all said and done at the end of the season, but also just at each meet. Because how many meets do you hold during the season?
We do 1 preview meet and 5 regular season.
Yeah, it's gotta be pretty satisfying when when those 6 meets are done.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and then add in the Maverick Center is a facility just 30 miles away from us, and, I get contracted out to do those meets as well, so I'm running ESPN meets, championships down there, so kinda add 3 or 4 more meets into my schedule, and I live gymnastics from January till about April.
I was gonna ask a question about staying busy, but it seems like you already do that. How do you get the students involved in going to them? Are they good about going to gymnastics or I guess all sports? Just student engagement as a whole, what are you kinda marketing right now, or how are you engaging the most with them?
Our student section is very interesting. I feel like Utah is not a live on campus. We're a commuter school. So we don't have a ton of students that actually live on campus, but trying to basically get them. We want the people who live walking distance from the Huntsman Center to come to meets. Gymnastics has never really had an issue with our student section. I think we average anywhere from 5 to 700 students a meet. They're loud, they're rowdy, they're engaged. It's so weird, and then you go to, like, a basketball game, and it's so different.
Mhm.
Our basketball program has been historically very good, but as of late, it's kind of had its ups and downs. Trying to get our students to buy in to a new coaching staff, to a new group of players has been really challenging for
Mhm.
us. Football, we have no issues. It's sold out every year, 8,000 students in the stands. It's like football and gymnastics are kind of the ones that they mainly go to, and then obviously, anytime we play BYU, your students will show
Yeah,
up.
Holy War.
Yep, the Holy War.
Talk about, like, the strategies and stuff from, like, sport to sport. You kinda mentioned it a little bit, but football, just engaging for fans or students or donors or that alike, and then you go to like, you were mentioning a little bit from, like, football to basketball, and then obviously to, like, gymnastics and stuff. Talk about, like, each sport and how you tailor it differently or the same for each sport.
I mean, it really depends on your demographic. Your demographic for football is so different than your demographic for gymnastics. For me, for gym, I'm marketing to young families, kids under the age of 12 and their parents. Like, those are basically the
Mhm.
target people you're trying to get into the Huntsman Center. Volleyball can probably be about the same, but you're looking more girls in high school kind of demographic in their families.
Mhm.
Football, it's a whole nother monster. We've never had an issue selling tickets for football, which is crazy. I think we have had a sellout every game consistently for a couple years. So, but the demographic for that is just so different. So we don't really have an issue marketing for that, but basketball is the one that we're really focusing on. New coaching
Mhm.
staff, new players, trying to get fans and donors to buy into that type of thing. So our coach is a former alum, Alex Jensen. He played here forever ago and we brought him back in. So a lot of our donors are kind of holding on to that nostalgia of when he played here and buying into the program via that feeling.
Mhm.
So that's kind of been the strategy with basketball is how do we focus on Alex and, what he did here when he played and then what his legacy is going to be going forward. So we're trying to hit their nostalgia. Unfortunately, that does give you an older demographic of people. Um,
Mhm.
you always have their grandkids or their kids bring in their friends in. So trying to build fans from a very young age has kind of been where we've found that success.
I think it also takes time too, and some stuff like that, like for KU being in this an historic basketball program. I just remember Bill Self getting hired, and it wasn't like everyone was on board with this new guy that from Illinois that no one really knew, but it takes time and then also success. But yeah, alum, like you said, Alex is an alum, and so I think just it's hard nowadays because people aren't patient in sports, it seems like, especially
Yeah.
NIL and stuff, like, you wanna see it turned around quickly and stuff, but I think that's the type of things today that should take time, and hopefully people understand that it does need to take time.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, people will complain about. If your team has a losing record, they want immediate results when things change, and unfortunately, that's just not the situation that you're ever in.
Mhm.
I mean, our football program, everyone's kind of, like, sitting on the edge of their seats to see if our new coach can continue the legacy that our football program has, but, just with the world and how college athletics is changing so much that, you can't always just be like, "We need results now," because that's just never gonna
Yeah. Yeah. What was the response when, was it Kyle?
Mhm.
I forget his last name. Kyle, it's,
Bingham.
yeah. What was that response when he kinda left or I guess retired, but then kinda came out of retirement, it sounded like?
I think our fans were very, like, happy for him because he had
Mhm.
such a legacy here, and he is such a was such a big part of our football program. I think a lot of people were like, "You know what? Good for him." Um,
Mhm.
I'm not sure how the sentiment changed when he came out of retirement and went to Michigan. I mean, we still have the utmost respect for him, and then as well as our new coach, he talks nothing but how much he loves him and has learned so much from him. So, trying to keep that narrative of, yeah, he's gone, but look at everything he's done for us.
Does that, I guess with football, you said it's pretty good when, it's not that hard to get people in seats, but going back to basketball, do you get to play around a little bit with promotions and like, "Hey, let's try something new or something innovative or different just to get butts in seats?"
And I think that's the name of the game in sports is you just wanna throw, like, 10 ideas at the wall and see if 3 of them stick.
Yeah.
Um, so basketball has kind of been a challenge for us. Our sponsorship team is really good at what they do, and they bring us a ton of sponsors that are so willing to, help fund a bunch of stuff and ask a lot of us to basically get those promotions and activations successful. So they give us a little bit of freedom on what we can do, like video board wise. So we're not
Yeah.
always doing a flex cam or always doing a dance cam. You got to keep it different. If you have a fan that has a season ticket and goes to all 15 games and they're like, well, I saw
Yeah.
this exact same thing last game, they're going to get bored.
Yeah.
Basically, TikTok is great for games. If you're ever really needing, like, fan games, go to TikTok because for some reason, they just have these weird, crazy ideas that you never would have thought of.
I was gonna ask about TikTok and, like, kinda the innovation of that, and I'm sure you guys are using it. I didn't have a chance to look at it, but I'm sure you guys are implementing that in your marketing strategies.
Most part, I mean, we're here it's kind of interesting where we have each big rev sport, gymnastics, men's basketball, women's basketball, and football has their own creative people. So they're the ones integrating TikTok into, their plans. We don't really touch it.
Mhm.
It's just a really good resource to not only see what's like trending, like if a pro team did something on their jumbotron, and it, went viral, like what is something that we can replicate in our arenas to do that same thing? So it's kind of a good tool for us to see like what's going on in the world and getting ideas, but we don't really touch it a ton, which, I'm a little bit grateful for. TikTok's kind of difficult for me to kind of grasp, but that's just the millennial in me, I guess.
Yeah, I still can't grasp it either. I don't I'm just doom scrolling pretty much.
Yep.
That's all I do. It's yeah, it's hard to grasp and stuff. But I was gonna ask you about that. Oh yeah, for like a campaign, how do you visualize it as a success or get feedback off of it or say, hey, that worked or that didn't work? Like maybe if you quote unquote like copied like a sports or professional team or implemented something alike, how do you view it and how do you get the feedback off of it?
We actually just had this kind of happen. So we have a consultant coming in to kind of help with our men's basketball game day experience. Like she was brought in to, she worked for the NBA for 20 plus years. So she's here to help us find things that will work and take risks.
Mhm.
So one of the big things that happened a couple weeks ago, and it kind of went not viral on Twitter or X or whatever it is now. Definitely our BYU fans didn't hold back
Yeah.
against us. But we did the fan, like we call it a conga line, but it was more like a fan thing where we brought like the student section onto the court and had them kind of dance around and then got them off in the under four.
Mhm.
We were down by 20 points at that point and brought them on the court and immediately were like, oh, we should probably never do this again.
Yeah.
So you have those failures, unfortunately, and you have the like halftime shows that you're like so pumped about. We had a circus themed women's basketball game on Tuesday, and our administration didn't particularly love our halftime act, which is, it's fine. You just have to kind of throw things at a wall and be willing to take that feedback from them when they're like, yeah, maybe not again. And you're like, okay, well, at least we tried. So
I bet the kids enjoyed it, the
well, they
circus.
loved it. You have a contortionist who's doing a back bend in the air and everyone's like, "Oh my gosh." But sometimes, you got to remember you're in Utah and unfortunately Utah's a very bubbly religious state and you kind of have to be very considerate of
Yeah, what have been your personal favorite ones that you've
it.
seen or kind of helped out on?
I'm very biased. I think my gymnastics stuff is so much fun. Every year I have one meet that I really put all my effort into and I try to blow out as big as possible. My first year here, it's when Top Gun Maverick came out, or my first gymnastics meet full time was when Top Gun Maverick came out, and we did basically Top Gun night for the Red Rocks because they run out to the Top Gun theme song out of the tunnel.
Nice.
So we did a whole thing like that. They had call signs. We did sunglass giveaways. Our mascot was in a flight suit. We basically went all out as much as possible. So fun. And I made these t-shirts that have the Top Gun logo on them that say Utah Red Rocks that I still get questions about today. And that was 3
Nice.
years ago.
Nice.
We did Era's tour last year, 2 years ago, and it was our alumni night. So we looked at the eras of Utah gymnastics from the 70s on, which was really fun. And then last year was our 50th anniversary of Utah gymnastics. So we did the birthday bash and we threw a giant birthday party for the Red Rocks. So you kind of have those meets that are big and successful and super fun. And then you look at like character day where you just bring princesses in and they sit around the concourse and then you're like, yeah, there's a way I can make this better. But this is what they've done for so long. So that's the meet this year is we're gonna do K-pop Demon Hunters for character day and try to figure out a way to make that big.
So are you the brains behind the operation?
For the most part, yeah.
And I love that. The first off the Gun one, I was like, I was thinking, I wish I was there for that. That'd be cool.
It was
The
really
cosi or
fun.
the call signs. Yeah. And then, yeah, I mean, that just sounds awesome. And it seems like you're a creative person. Have you had a creative background or where does that come from?
Kind of. I mean, in high school I was like wanted a wannabe theater kid. I
Mhm.
also was like big into music and art and stuff. So getting into sports has been kind of a big creative outlet for me.
Mhm.
I want to do this and I want to make it huge. But I don't know. You get into sports and you're like, you look back and you're like, I don't know where all this comes from. It's more so just like I have all these ideas that I want to try and I've been given a stage to try it.
A big stage too, especially with
Yes,
gymnastics.
very big stage.
Yeah. With that background, what made you wanna get into sports in the first place?
Whenever I do talks like this, I always go into my history and everyone's like, wait, what? So I actually wanted to be a child psychologist for the longest time. I also wanted to be a history teacher. When I went to school, I had no idea I was going to work in sports. I am a licensed pharmacy technician and I've been that for 12 years. I keep my license active because you never know.
Yeah. Yeah, you never know.
You never know. I went to a NFL game in 2015. It was Carolina versus the Green Bay Packers, the year that Carolina made the Super Bowl. And I saw these people just running down up and down the field with headsets on, and I was like, "I wanna know what they do because I wanna do that." And it took me a long time to really figure out, like, I wanna work in sports. Very passionate football fan, very big, basketball fan, even though the Jazz just aren't that great,
Mhm.
but
They're on the come up, though.
they're hey, if they can figure it out, they'll be great. And now we got the hockey team, so we're doing great.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
But, you know, y it was like that changing moment where you're like, "I wanted to do this all my whole life," and then you go to this game and it's like, "I wanna figure out what they do." And I did, and I'm now in collegiate athletics where my dream was initially pro, but I kind of found my niche in gymnastics and collegiate athletics, so
Yeah, I feel like it's just more personal on the collegiate side instead of the professional side. Not it's not to say that's not personal, but I think it's just more so with like alumni and then like people giving back to your program and stuff. I just find it to be more personable and something that I want to stay in instead of maybe pursue the pros for a couple years. But I think this is home. It seems like in my short career of a couple months.
yeah, and you start to, like, build, like, relationships and, like, connections with the athletes. I think that's been probably about my favorite part is,
Yeah.
getting to know former volleyball players and talking to them and becoming really good friends with them. I'm really
Yeah.
good friends with a former volleyball player here and then some of the current gymnasts on the team. We talk all the time, so it's really fun. Like, you kinda realize that you work in sports and you realize that they're just people and,
Mhm.
um yeah, they're incredible, and what they do is absolutely amazing, but at the end of the day, they're just people, and making those connections is, probably the highlight of my career.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny 'cause, no, so yeah, same as making those connections, and then I was on my lunch break yesterday, and our office is actually in Allen Fieldhouse, so it's in our basketball arena, and, I was just walking around, like, the concourse for my lunch break, and I had my AirPods in or whatever, but I'm like some of our doors were open for their practice, and so I could kinda see in, and, like, our men's basketball team was practicing, I'm like, "Those are really just, like, humans." Like, they're just, like, normal people that are just they're just really good at what they do, and they're here at a higher level, but at the same time, they're younger than me, and they're just it's just, like, it's just I don't know, I had, like, a realization yesterday where it's just these are just humans. These aren't like, I mean, obviously they have the fame and the fortune and stuff, but it's not like a wide stretch of me compared to them. Like it's just we're all humans here.
Yep, I get that anytime I walk into the gymnastics facility, I'll open the door and all of them just look at me, and they're like, "Hey, Abby," and you're like
Yeah.
it's like one of those
You know my
like,
name.
"Wait, you know who I am?"
Yeah.
But of course they do, but it's not something that you, like, ever had, and it's just the weirdest thing.
Yeah, yeah. Looking back kind of at the start of your career when you were interning and obviously weird times with COVID and everything, kind of wanted to circle back to round this out of like what experiences stood out to you when you were first trying to get into sports and like how did you maybe land your first internship? I'm just kind of at the start of the start. How did you come about in the marketing world for in the internship?
So the university has the American Marketing Association group on campus, and they held a sports marketing panel. So I was like, "Great, perfect, right up my alley. I'm gonna go." And I did. And at that time, the associate athletic director of marketing was speaking. So I made a point to go talk to her after the panel and was just like, "I want to be an intern. What do I do?" And it was pretty quick after that I actually got the internship. I think it was maybe 2 or 3 months, but I think I emailed, like, 3 different people. They were probably really sick of hearing from me, but I was like, "Please, please, please just hire me, like, I wanna do this." So,
Persistent.
yeah, very persistent, unfortunately, but hey, look at me now.
Yeah.
And now I have people reaching out to me as persistent as I was, so
Yeah.
kind of a full
Yeah,
circle.
what's that like real quick? Just kind of like now people are emailing you, maybe even calling or texting, but like what's that like to be on the other side of that?
I love it. I do. I it's like one of those, like, guilty pleasures where I'm like, "I have so much knowledge, let me share my knowledge with you." So, I never find it, like, annoying. It's always the realization that I was in their spot too. So, I'm always willing to help, the younger
I think yeah.
generation.
I think a lot of people, yeah, realize that it's a little intimidating, obviously, for some people to reach out to someone in your position, or if they want to do something else, to reach out to an associate athletic director or just maybe even the athletic director themselves. But with those people being in that person's shoes, probably 5, 10, 15 years before that, I think it's easier to comprehend once you realize that they're in the same spot that I was.
Yep, absolutely. I will never have turned down anyone who's like, "I wanna know what you do."
What for someone looking to get into marketing, especially on the sports side and even collegiate, pro, or whatever, what skills do you think nowadays are most applicable? Wait, apparable? Or wait, what skills would you imply the most, or what would you say is needed the most, or that you've seen kind of throughout your years that it's like, hey, that's a big advantage.
One of the things that's starting to come out a little bit more would be just design and, like, graphic design. Being able to create content that looks good and follows brand standards is really important, and that's something that we teach our interns. But also, I think the biggest thing is just managing stress. I've had so many people shadow me at gymnastics meets, and afterwards, it's, like, wide-eyed, and they're like, "How?" And you're just like, "You just get used to it." Like, it's
Yeah, it just works.
you get used to having 4 different people talking in your ear and managing everything going on, so being extremely organized, being very over communicating, like, that's a really big thing in sports is making sure that you have talked to every single person that needs to know what's happening so that everyone's in the loop and not miss and even if you've told this person, like, 4 times, telling them again because you never want anything to be a surprise on game day.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that'd be a real shame if you weren't organized or didn't know what was going on.
You're like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah, for shadowing, how does that come about? How did you or was it someone just reaching out and you're like, "Yeah, you can shadow," or was it an intern or what was that?
I had the one of the volleyball managers shadow me at the women's game on, Tuesday. I have a former volleyball
Nice.
player who just graduated shadowing me on Friday. So,
Cool.
it's just people who've reached out. Like, I think I get quite a few LinkedIn's, quite a few emails of just, "Hey, my friend works in athletics. What can I do to shadow you?" Or, "Can I come and see
Mhm,
how you run a game?"
mhm. Yeah. The last thing I think I have for you, just question-wise is advice as a whole for someone, maybe that's in high school or college looking to get into the sports side, doesn't have to be marketing, can just be anything in the niche that we have in the sport industry, what advice would you give to someone, even that's maybe just looking to get a promotion or that was in your shoes, like an intern to an assistant to an associate? What advice would you give for someone just as a whole?
Take the chance. The sports world is extremely small. Everybody knows everyone. So I have friends at Oklahoma. I have friends at Stanford. You reach out to one person and you've opened up an entire world, basically. But take the chance, basically. You're never going to get into sports if you don't like kind of dive in head first. If you know it's what you want to do and you know that you'd be really good at it, or you want the opportunity to know if you'll be good at it, find those internships. Sometimes they are unpaid, and that's kind of not the greatest thing. But we try to take care of our interns as much as possible and try to put them and set them up for success. So give those opportunities a shot. You may get into it and realize that you absolutely hate it, but you want to stay in sports. So talk to those people and find those opportunities that were great. Like I've had interns who have worked for me that are like, yeah, marketing and game pres is probably not what my goal is. And we've moved them to the comms side or we've moved them to creative. And they've kind of found their niche in those areas. So don't be afraid to try things.
Mhm.
If marketing's not your forte, maybe tickets is, maybe Crimson Club or like our donors side. Or maybe you wanna work in, like, equipment with football, like, you just never know, but reaching out to those people and being like, "I wanna work in sports, what can you do?" is probably the greatest advice I can give. As far as,
Yeah.
like, moving up, I'm always not the greatest at this one just because I feel like everything kind of fell in my lap, which doesn't happen a lot, but prove your value, prove your worth. What you do on game day to present these games and do all this stuff, do it to the best of your ability so that you become so valuable to this program. I would not be sitting here if I didn't take the opportunity and the chance to run a gymnastics meet. And yeah, it was probably the most stressful day of my life because it was number 1 Oklahoma versus number 3 Utah in
Yeah, wow.
2021. But I took the chance and, now I'm getting contracted to run the Big 12 championship and contracted to run these large scale gymnastics meets because of the effort and the quality of my work. So
That's awesome. Yeah,
it's
yeah, I
fun.
appreciate that. Yeah, no, that's awesome, and I'm glad that you get to do that, and the Big 12 championship, is that in Utah?
It is. It's at the Maverick
Nice.
Center. I'm not sure how much
Oh, yeah, you
longer it
said.
will be there, but, yes, it is at the Maverick Center.
Well, I was gonna say because the basketball one's in Kansas City, I was like, "Well, if you're in Kansas City, just let me know," but it sounds yeah, it's in Utah.
Yeah,
Maybe if it does get transferred to Kansas City, we'll have to meet up, but, yeah,
absolutely.
that's great. Yeah, that's great advice, and I appreciate everything. Kinda, yeah, taking the chance on me to just sit down and talk for a little bit. Did you know Eric Luna on the ticketing side?
I did. He worked for us for a very long time, actually. We got moved down to the office right before he left, so
Yeah.
very, very limited interaction, but Eric's great.
Yeah, he's my, I guess, boss's boss. So, yeah, he's my boss. So, yeah, he's here at KU. Yeah, he's a phenomenal person, and that's how I landed this position was just reaching out to him and getting a coffee date, and he saw the potential in me in one coffee date, and I got a couple interviews, and that's why I'm here. But, yeah, he's a great guy, and I just trying to make that connection to Utah. Yeah, that's cool.
See, I mean, you've already experienced it, reaching out cold emailing and taking an opportunity and a chance, and look where you are now. So, I
Yeah.
think a lot of people that's very scary, and I totally understand.
Oh, it is.
I mean, that's kinda how this industry works, and it's all about who you know.
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
Yeah.
Abby, I appreciate the time here today, and thank you so much for sitting down with me. I really appreciated it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for reaching out, Ryan. I really hope that this was helpful and,
Yeah, this was awesome.
hopefully somebody out there finds this helpful as well.
Yeah, no, no, that definitely will, and if it's that someone with myself, let it be because this was great advice and honestly a really cool story and very similar to staying home and everything like that, and I appreciate it, Abby, and we'll talk soon. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much. Bye.